Welcome back to Patrick Christie's Tonight. Now, King Charles and Queen Camilla, they arrived in Australia for their official royal tour of the Commonwealth nation amidst a backdrop of Australian politicians and the wider public calling for a republic, which would boot Britain's royal family out of their constitution. Despite concerns about protest, the royal couple were actually greeted with a spectacular light show. Look at that, projected onto the Sydney Opera House. I mean, that is really lovely. A similar projection planned for the coronation, however, was cancelled back in May last year by one of the same provincial leaders in Australia who decided that he was too busy doing his hair to go and meet the royals. So with resistance against the monarchy persisting across Australia, will this be a farewell tour? I'm very pleased to say that Rafe Haydel-Mancour, royal historian, joins me now. Rafe, thank you very, very much. Are the Aussies lucky to have them?
Absolutely. Look, the clear, simple state of the situation is that Canada, Australia and New Zealand are three of the world's most prosperous, most stable countries, highest quality of life, ranking in the top 10. Monarchy hasn't stopped them from getting any of that sort of stuff, you know? And as I said in 1999, when the Republican Prime Minister Paul Keating, dubbed the Lizard of Oz by Fleet Street, when he had a referendum on the issue and it was defeated, I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Australia's working very fine, thank you. And mature, stable countries don't tamper with something that's working very effectively. And actually, this tour is starting off on a very positive note. And I would be actually quite embarrassed to be a Republican today, because republicanism in Australia, as in this country, has been the biggest political failure of modern times, because support for the monarchy today is at its strongest point since 1979. I mean, this is remarkable. For the last few years, it was about 1/3 of Australians wanted to become a republic tomorrow, 1/3 wanted to remain a monarchy, and the rest were either undecided, didn't care, or wanted to kick it down the road. But the new polling shows that actually 45% of Australians want to keep the monarchy. More Australians think it's good than bad. More Australians are proud of it than are ashamed by it. And a majority of Australians have a positive attitude towards the monarchy. That's despite the Republicans telling us, oh, well, you know, when Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II dies, inevitably Australia will become a monarchy. This is egg in the face for the Republicans.
Are they like Just Stop Oil, just a fringe group of, you know, quite at times mentally unhinged individuals who decide that they want to make a lot of noise, but actually they don't have a huge basis in a popular political movement?
Well, you have to be rather an odd person to make an Australian republic your main sort of interest in life, I would say, in terms of the devotees of the Republican movement over there. But more broadly, what we're seeing in Australia is exactly what we've seen elsewhere. There's an elite attitude towards our institutions, and there's what the great Australian public like and believe. So the current government, Anthony Albanese, you know, from the Labour Party, they're far-left radicals. You know, 5 of the 6 state governors, state premiers in Australia are also from the left.
Yep.
Look, it was Anthony Albanese's policy to make Australia into a republic. That's now gone onto the back burner. Why? Because they had a humiliating defeat in another referendum recently about giving Aboriginal peoples some more constitutional powers, and they are so smarting with that. And across the world, you know, from the Brexit referendum to the Irish constitutional referendum, which was an attack on the family, to here in Australia, our elites have had their referendums come back with shocking votes because they didn't realise that the people of these countries are still deeply conservative on a small C level, and they like the institution.
Yeah, massively out of touch, aren't they? Massively out of touch with wider reality. And I actually am lucky. I've got some Australian friends, and they are quite annoyed at the amount of headlines this generated, because they say that is not representative of Australian people. What are the King and Queen going to be doing when they're going around Australia, etc.? Do we know much detail about it? Because I'm quite concerned that at some point there will be an opportunity for people to make some kind of dirty protest towards them.
There'll be one opportunity when the King does have a sort of a walkabout and meets people around Sydney Opera House. But essentially, this is a very, very carefully managed trip because of the King's health. So essentially, he's only having day events, and they're very few and far between. So there's no great evening activities that are taking place, no dinners and so forth. So there aren't many opportunities for members of the public to meet His Majesty on this occasion. But it's hugely important because this is the first time that the King has gone there as King of Australia. He's not going there as King of Britain. Britain. He is there as King of Australia. This is being paid for by the Australian government, not by the British government. And it's the first visit since 2011 of a reigning Australian sovereign. And the King has to be seen to be believed, as his late mother used to say. And the Australian crown is so important, but there are very few occasions now when Australians get a chance to become acquainted with the importance of the monarchy, and royal visits are the best way to do that.
It pains me to say this. There have been times when I've been a bit critical of some of the things that maybe the King has done. A ridiculous apology to Ngozi Fulani, a.k.a. Marlene Headley. There was also this idea that he's been a bit, OTT, in my view, with some of the eco stuff. I mean, didn't they fly commercially for a leg of this journey and then get into a private jet at the last point? I'll be honest with you, I don't think our King, who is ill, should be flying commercial. That's not something I would expect. I would expect him to go in all guns blazing. But anyway, he also raised some eyebrows when he said that, he was open to the idea of them not becoming a republic, but having more of a discussion about it. They wouldn't use the word walkabout in case that offended Aboriginal people. And I wondered, has he invited some of this stuff on? Or is it a masterstroke? Because now they're talking about the Republican movement in Australia, it shows how small it is.
Yeah, precisely. No, look, His Majesty is simply going along with standard convention. When Australia had its referendum in 1999, the Queen's statement was very much the same. This is a decision for the Australian people. If that's the whole virtue and value of being a constitutional monarchy, is it's a democracy. It's up for the people to decide. When Barbados became a republic in 2021, when Mauritius left in 1992, the royal family said the same thing. This is a matter for you to decide. We're not there for, just for the sake of it. We're there because we're there by public
Just out of
consent.
interest, would Barbados have had a better case for reparations if they'd not become a republic, do you think?
No, but I think the problem is, you see, the Caribbean have become infected by the woke mind virus by their proximity to America. So they've, more than anywhere else, that's why you're seeing the Republican element being so strong there, because they bought into all the nonsense about colonialism and reparations, despite the fact it's thanks to the British Empire that the Caribbean states are middle-income countries who rank higher on the Human Development Index than Brazil and Mexico and these countries. So they have 10 times as much wealth as the countries of West Africa, where the slaves came from originally.
Something that I don't think gets spoken about enough is the fact that Keir Starmer is on video, historically, albeit a long time ago, saying that he used to campaign for the abolition of the monarchy. He went to brush that under the carpet. He was knighted. He's now got the old Union Jacks behind him all the time. Is that potentially a problem?
I think it's a huge problem. Leopards don't change their spots, no matter what they say in public. And I would have to say also that applies to the last Prime Minister but one. Liz Truss, remember, as a Lib Dem, at the convention there also said that she wanted to have an abolition of the monarchy. The fact is, this just gives more evidence to the idea that our elites are members of a uniparty, in many ways completely disconnected from the great British public, who, of course, we know from all of the polling, the overwhelming majority of the British public support the monarchy. And it's just yet another example of that great disconnect and how our elected leaders do not reflect the values of the rest of us.